So let's go into the details and start with Codesys SVN. SVN is the abbreviation for Subversion. And perhaps you ask yourself, hey, why should I use a version control system? What is the benefit? Why do you offer that? The main task is to make sure that source code changes are transparent. So questions like who made a change, when was a change made, what was changed, why was the change performed, are questioned by such a version control management tool, because you can then track all these changes, track who did it, when it was done, track special comments, why it was done. And this is covered for changes made on just one workstation, but as well if changes are made by different users on different workstations, because then it's interesting to keep the overview. This makes as well sense if you have project changes over a long time scale. So if you further develop your application for months or even years. And there's a big benefit when managing concurrent branches of a project. I have here a small picture in order to illustrate that a little bit. Let's assume you're developing an application and you have a first release version 1.0 and you go to the machine which is still in your machine hall shortly before the delivery, and then you do some optimization and you have a version 1.1 of that application software, and then you deliver the machine to your customer. Then we have a branch. And maybe the commissioning staff on site do some optimization, so we have some updates there. And the machine has a special software version right now running and executed. Now in your company, you develop the next machine of the same series. And of course, you further develop as well the application software. You come to a version 1.2, 1.3, and release that machine, ship it to the customer. And then the same thing happens there. Now the question is, how do we get the changes from one branch to another? How can we benefit from the development that on-site were already made? Is there a possibility? Yes, such a version control system helps you to do so. Which version control systems are available? I already said Subversion. This is an Apache product. This is a software versioning and a version control system, which is distributed as a free software. It does the versioning in a central repository, a kind of data storage, in the form of a simple revision count. It modifies the files by different editors and different workstations. Okay, then there's another one, Git. It will be part of the Codesys Professional Developer Edition, but it's not so far. And there was a question how it can be compared. In general, even if Git is not yet released, you will see that the usage will be quite similar, even if there are, of course, then in the future, some specifics that rely on the Git surface and the Git thinking. This is one reason why it's not yet released, because it's some work to realize that Git implementation too. However, talking about Subversion today, and in the near future, next year, you will be able to work with Git. How's the general workflow working with Subversion? Yeah, we have here, for example, 2 workstations with users who have Codesys project. They check out, update the project from the Subversion database. Then they can work on it, edit it, modify the application code, and then commit changes to this database. And as soon as this is done, for example, on the next day, they start again with an update from the database in order to get all the changes from the other users in their local copy of the project. And so we are playing around, but everything is under control of the Subversion version control system. Now, how is this integrated in Codesys? You see here already a screen, but instead of discussing the screen, I will rather switch to my Codesys development we have here the project, we have the project tree. I have no editors open. And the first thing I need to do is to import the whole project tree into the Subversion database. For that purpose, I go to project SVN, and there's a command import project to SVN. And as already said, I need a Subversion server somewhere, and I can enter now the URL of a certain repository that is meant for me. You see that I have already done that before, but let's take a new fridge control directory. There's a checker here. Okay, the tool tells me there will be a new directory created. I can make now an import message, for example, initial commit, and then everything is imported into the database. Takes, of course, a second. And what we will see here on the left is that we get an immediate feedback as soon as this has happened by means of a so-called overlaid icon. So we have these green bubbles here in front of every object, showing me that all these objects are now under the control of Subversion. Nothing has changed in general. Right now, I can now work as before. So for example, I can go to just one of these objects and start editing. But as soon as I do that, for example, insert a counter 1, should have already, no, counter 2, okay. Take the counter 2. As soon as I've done that, you see here on the left side in my project tree that in front of that object that I've changed, the overlaid icon has changed too. Because it shows now that I did a modification. This is the orange box here, and the lock symbol showing me that this object is now locked for me. So this project has to be an Apache server. It needs to be an Apache Subversion server. Okay. It seems that I've made my changes. Now what can I do with that? And the next important question is, what do the others see? In fact, the others see the same thing. They see that I have made a modification and that I have locked that object. So this means that they cannot modify it right now, but they can now update the same object in order to have the same modification, but only as soon as I have updated or committed these changes into my database. So for that purpose, I have different options. One option is to use the special view called pending changes. This is a view that is only available when you have Codesys SVN installed. And opening that, you see that I have here a list of all changes made in my project. And I can now give a commit message, counter edit. And I could now commit this message or all changes into my database. This is just one option. There's another option, right mouse click. There's as well a context sensitive command. And of course, I can commit only this object too. I will do it right now with this all. And this is now updated into the database. You see the lock icon and the modification icon, they have disappeared. And furthermore, I can now see that there was a modification made. How can I do that? I go again to project SVN and show project log. And there I see all the changes made by me and by others with that additional comment that I have added. So this was just the basic information about how to use Codesys SVN, about working with such a version control system. I could show you now many more features and possibilities. For example, if we go again to that menu, you see that there is a whole list of different possibilities. For example, we can copy that project into another branch, as we have seen it in the small illustration before, in order to build up a new branch. Or we can merge changes in case two or more developers were working on the same project and object. We can merge them together. Or we can disconnect the project from SVN in case I want to go somewhere without connection to my network, just to work on my application. Or I can update the project in case somebody else has changed an object. I can go to a special revision of the project, revert project, switch between revisions, and have a lot of possibilities. In this case, the only thing I will do, because I don't want to work right now further on with subversion control, is I disconnect again. In order to have my clean project right now, not because I'm not wanting to work with Subversion, but in order to avoid some additional windows that will be opened when we're working through this presentation. Okay, so you have seen that there are a lot of possibilities, and especially if you work with multiple developers on the same project, Codesys SVN, and this possibility to work with a Subversion or with any other version control system, Git in the future, is a must-have. Of course, you can do it manually. There are customers who realize that manually to have that versioning of the object, of the projects, and so on, but this is no fun. With such a tool, this is really much, much better. And be sure that we use it ourselves. A tool like Codesys would not be possible to be developed without such a version control system. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint slideshow. I hope you see my PowerPoint right now again. Yeah, I think so. Otherwise, I would receive some feedback from you. Okay, you just get here in the slide a kind of conclusion. And see again what we have seen in the live demonstration, see all these overlaid icons, the available commands, and get an impression of what is possible with Codesys SVN.